final portion of this assembly will be the monitoring loop. We're going to want to build this in a few different sections, utilizing the unions on the ball valves to build piece by piece, and at the very end, putting it all together. Let's get started. When we start priming all the fittings on the monitoring loop, we're going to want to disassemble the unions from the ball valves to make sure that we don't get any primer or glue in the sealing surfaces here. When we disassemble this, make sure that the O-ring stays attached to the ball valve. We don't want to lose that. Now we're going to start priming. Now that everything's all primed, we're going to use the same gluing practice we used earlier, making sure we do a quarter turn on the way in, a push and hold for at least 20 seconds, waiting for everything to cure, and then we'll move on. We can still use the same technique as well, hiding the writing on the pipe to the backside, as well as the casting marks on the T's to the backside for a better aesthetic. We're going to start with the lower section of the monitoring loop. This will be our 1.5 inch section here. We want to make sure this is all nice and squared up so that we proceed forward, everything remains square in the monitoring loop. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and put in our 4.5 inch pieces to the top of the T's so I can visually align the two to make sure that they're 100% square. Now that we have our lower section mostly built with our 4.5 sticking out the top, we have our other T with the 4.5. I'm going to go ahead and glue this on, roll it down to the table, make sure this is all nice and square. After a few seconds, I'll pick it up off the table and visually align to make sure we have a nice square assembly. Everything looks good. We can go ahead and proceed. Now we can start putting in our reducing bushings into the lower section of the manifold. We'll start with the right side, which is an 1.5 inch by 3/4 bushing, going to a 3/4 section of pipe to an SR 3/4 inch T, which we will be inserting our hose bib into. On this assembly, we're going to go ahead and quarter turn this on as well, and the final rotation will be facing outward. And make sure we have it nice and squared up. And again, facing out towards you on the lower assembly. On the other side of the assembly, we'll have an 1.5 inch by 3/4 inch SR threaded reducing bushing. This will be for the EC sensor. On our hose bib, we're going to need to install Teflon tape again. Remember, 4 to 5 wraps, clockwise manner. And we'll go ahead and thread in the hose bib to the SR elbow on the right side of the manifold. We don't need to bury these threads to the bottom, just nice and snug. You can still crack this fitting if you bottom the threads out. There you go, nice and snug, and that should finish with the bib in the downward position also. To finish this assembly, we need to add our union collars for the ball valves. We grab the collars themselves before we proceed any further, put these on, grab the union socket fitting, we'll glue these in place. So I put these on both sides right off the bat so I don't forget them. Again, we want to check and make sure that no glue got on the sealing surface of the union here. If it did, wipe it off as quickly as possible. Now that this is all complete, we can go ahead and set it off to the side and work on other parts of this monitoring loop. Our next section is going to be the upper right section of the monitoring loop, which goes into the blend tank. This should be fairly straightforward. It's just a T with a couple pipes and union ends on it. So nothing really to square up here. This should go pretty easy. All right, we got the pipes glued in. Again, make sure we have our collars on before the socket union fittings go on. So slide that on first. We'll start with the horizontal section of pipe. Twist and hold. Verify there is no glue on the sealing surface of the union. And we'll repeat this process for the vertical as well. Collar on, glue on the socket. We can go ahead and put this assembly off to the side now. Our final part of the monitoring loop is going to be the upper left section. This one, again, will go pretty easy. No squaring required, so let's just move through it pretty quick here. All three sides of this T are going to get union collars and socket fittings. Make sure those collars go on first, and then glue on the sockets. Set this off to the side. We have one last little piece to do, just a 4.5 section of pipe with a collar and a socket end. This will be our outlet pipe from the NDK. And that's it. Now we can go ahead and grab all of our pieces, grab our ball valves, make sure the O-rings are still intact on both sides, and assemble the full monitoring loop. Start with the bottom. Thread our ball valves onto the collars. Next, we'll take the upper left outlet section of the monitoring loop, thread that on, add another ball valve in the middle, and attach our upper inlet pipe. And then take our final ball valve, and then that last 4.5 section of pipe. Now that we've completed the upper manifold, the blend tank, and the monitoring loop, we're going to go ahead and install the union ends from our blend tank in the previous section to the upper and lower manifolds now. Again, we're going to want to flow the opposite direction as shown on the blend tank itself. So the out will actually be our inlet, the inlet will be our outlet. So we'll go ahead and remove the socket fittings. Make sure we put these in the correct orientation on the assemblies. So on the upper assembly, we're going to put the threaded one. These are already pre-primed, so all we have to do is glue them. On the collared side, it's very important again. Make sure the collar goes onto the pipe before we glue anything. And we're all set. Now all of our assemblies are completed. The upper, the blend tank, the lower monitoring loop. We're going to proceed over to the wall where Carrick and I will be doing the final assembly on the wall.